Commander Zethkar surveyed the human settlement below through the viewport of his flagship. The orbital bombardment had ceased 3 days ago, leaving the colony's shield generator smoking ruins. Now his ground forces surrounded the pathetic cluster of buildings that the humans called New Haven. "Status report," he commanded, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. "Sir, we have the settlement completely surrounded. Approximately 3,000 human civilians trapped inside, along with maybe 200 of their so-called Colonial Defense Force," reported his aide, Velthan. "Their communications are jammed, supply lines severed. They have perhaps a week of food remaining." Zethkar's eyes gleamed. This would be another easy victory for the hegemony, another primitive species to add to their growing empire. Humans had shown promise with their crude FTL technology, but they were still centuries behind hegemony military might. This colony would serve as an example to the rest of their kind. Excellent. Begin the waiting protocol. Let them starve for a few more days, then offer surrender terms. The High Command wants some alive for study. But inside New Haven's Emergency Command Center, Colonel Sarah Chen wasn't planning surrender. She stood before a holographic display showing the alien positions, her weathered face grim but determined. "Ma'am, the quantum beacon is ready," reported Lieutenant Torres, his hands trembling slightly over the controls. "But activating it, there's no guarantee anyone will receive the signal. We're 300 light-years from the nearest human world. And even if they do," added Major Williams, "it would take months for any response to reach us through normal space." Chen nodded slowly. The quantum entanglement beacon was experimental technology, barely tested, and certainly not standard equipment for a frontier colony. But her husband had been part of the research team that developed it, and she'd insisted on having a prototype installed here. The other colonists had called it a waste of resources. "Lieutenant, send the signal. Full emergency broadcast. Let Earth know what's happening here." "Yes, ma'am." Torres activated the beacon, and across the vastness of space, quantum particles danced in perfect synchronization. On Earth, in the depths of the military command center buried beneath the Rockies, an alarm began to sound. Admiral Rebecca Harrison rushed to the quantum communications array, her heart pounding. The technology was so new that only a handful of stations could receive the signals. The message was brief. "New Haven under siege. Alien forces. Population 3,200. Require immediate assistance. Colonel Chen commanding." Harrison stared at the message for a long moment. New Haven was impossibly far away. Even their fastest ships would take months to reach the colony. But as she read the coordinates, her eyes widened. She'd seen those numbers before. "Get me Admiral Park at the Titan facility. Emergency priority." Within hours, the most classified project in human history shifted into overdrive. Deep within Saturn's moon Titan, the prototype FTL drive that had been undergoing final tests received new orders. The UES Retribution, humanity's first true faster-than-light warship, would make its maiden voyage not as a test run, but as a rescue mission. Captain Marcus Stone watched the countdown timer reach 0. Around him, the bridge crew held their breath as exotic matter flowed through conduits that bent space-time itself. The Retribution didn't just break the light barrier, it shattered it completely. The ship that emerged from hyperspace above New Haven 5 days later was unlike anything either species had ever seen. Where human vessels had been bulky and industrial, the Retribution was sleek death incarnate. Its hull seemed to absorb light itself, and the energy readings it gave off made Zethkar's instruments scream warnings. "Sir, massive energy signature detected," Velthan reported, his voice tight with fear. It's impossible. No ship should be able to generate that much power." "Identify it," Zethkar ordered. But even as he spoke, he knew. Somehow, impossibly, the humans had come. Captain Stone's voice echoed across all frequencies, broadcast simultaneously in 17 languages, including the hegemony's own. "This is Captain Marcus Stone of the United Earthship Retribution. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this system, or I will demonstrate why humanity does not negotiate with those who threaten our people." Zethkar snarled. One ship, no matter how advanced, could not stand against his entire fleet. "All vessels, attack pattern Omega. Destroy that ship." The hegemony fleet opened fire with everything they had: plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, graviton disruptors. The barrage that struck the Retribution should have vaporized any known vessel. Instead, the human ship's shields flared briefly and held. Then it began to return fire. The weapons that lanced out from the retribution weren't just advanced, they were revolutionary. Focused antimatter beams that cut through hegemony shields like tissue paper, gravitational pulse weapons that crushed ships from the inside out. And when the antimatter torpedo struck Zethkar's flagship, the explosion briefly outshone the system's star. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. In the aftermath, as burning hegemony ships fell from orbit, Captain Stone established communication with the colony. "Colonel Chen, this is the retribution. We've neutralized the threat. Are you and your people safe?" Chen's voice cracked with emotion. "Captain, how did you get here so fast?" "Ma'am, you sent a distress call. When humans are in trouble, we come. It's what we do." As rescue shuttles descended to the colony, carrying medical supplies and fresh reinforcements, the survivors of Zethkar's fleet limped away through hyperspace. They carried with them a terrible realization. Humanity was no primitive species to be casually conquered. They were something far more dangerous. They were protectors who would cross impossible distances and bend the laws of physics itself to save their own. The Siege of New Haven became legend, not just among humans but across the galaxy. Other species learned what the hegemony discovered that day. If you threaten human colonies, you don't just face the local defenses. You face all of humanity, and humanity, as the universe was beginning to learn, was utterly relentless when it came to protecting its own.